All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you all. And welcome to the podcast, everybody. This is Harshad.eth. And today we have Liam Herbst. You might have seen the previous video that I've made. I've made a video, a detailed video on the thread. So Liam has recently written this thread on 26th of October, why Reddit is secretly building a metaverse empire, right? With the NFT avatars. And it's an awesome thread. So I've done a video on that. And I think that's proof of work. When you've done something, you've added value, people notice you. You can definitely go ahead and ask them and have a conversation. So I think it's an achievement for me here. Doing a great podcast with Liam here. So before getting started, Liam, why don't you give a quick intro about yourself?
Of course, thank you. And also, I really appreciate you doing the YouTube video. That was very cool. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. My background, I'll go back. I actually spent my teen years playing hockey. I was a competitive hockey player up in Canada, where I'm from. And when I was 20 years old, I had to make the decision to if I wanted to continue playing at a high level professionally or to go to school. And I decided to go to school. During that time, became very interested in tech and entrepreneurship. And I started working at a company called On Deck, actually in my fourth year, just before I graduated. And On Deck is a company that works with founders and like high performing people in different career functions like writing, engineering, etc. Basically
Okay.
to accelerate. It's almost like a human focused accelerator instead of a business focused accelerator. So I worked there for over a year with a ton of founders, helped build some new programs. And during that time, I became introduced to NFTs. And funny enough, I became introduced to NFTs through NBA Top Shot.
Okay.
And this related back to my days when I was growing up playing hockey. I loved the Hockey Ultimate Team, the EA Sports NHL games, Hockey Ultimate Team, which is kind of like a fantasy game where you have all these different players and they have custom ratings and a marketplace where you can buy and sell them and get them in packs and so on and so forth. So I was like that nerdy kid that loved
Okay.
playing the market and like trading the cards around and more than playing the game. And when I
Got it.
found NBA Top Shot, I was like, this is the same thing, but it's real money now. I can actually
Correct.
profit. This is pretty cool. So anyways, that was back in January of 2021. Exited luckily near the top as it was just going bananas for that. And then work took over at On Deck, and I didn't really get back into the scene until about August of last year. And anyways, began investing more in NFTs, contributing to a few DAOs, and it's just been this snowball effect of falling in love with the space and now working for contracting for a few companies and such, and exploring making a full-time career in Web3.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I think that's hell of a story, right? I think because you've also come from that background wherein you're collecting stuff, you might have inherently you saw that as something where you can collect things, but now digitally, right? So that's something like really cool. And also, I've been in Toronto for a while, right? I've been there for a year already, and I also saw somewhere on the internet that you were in Etobicoke. You were born in Etobicoke, I think. So I was in Etobicoke itself, so North Carson Street. So
Oh no,
that's where I
yeah,
was. And you see the suits here as well. So I went
yeah,
to the
of course.
suits building and everything. So yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
cool. It was cool. So coming back to the point where you're actually talking about the collectible, right? Because you've been a hockey player and everything. So yeah, there's so many things I want to cover right now. But if you actually go through the journey, so why did you choose to actually go ahead professionally instead of playing hockey and everything? So what was that turning point there?
It was a really tough decision for me. I actually had one of those moments when I was 15 and 16 where I had to debate if I wanted to continue playing hockey again because I had some pretty significant injuries that I needed to
Okay.
recover from. And so I kind of went through it then where I like gave the game was taken away from me instead of giving it up. But then when I was 20, I just came to the realization that it would be a hard path for me ahead to fulfill my dream of playing in the NHL and having a high performing career in the NHL. Even though,
Got
I
it.
mean, I was 15 before I had those surgeries, I was on track to do it. And, even after I recovered, I still had a year playing in the, or 4 years playing in the Ontario Hockey League, which you may know if you're based in Toronto. But, anyways, I'm happy I made the decision. It was very tough. And entering Web3 feels a little bit like that, especially focusing
Got
on
it.
being more of a creative because the path isn't as it's not as clear, it's not as well trod. And I
Correct.
think
Correct. Correct.
over the next decade, we're going to see this really large emergence in um, people starting like businesses of themselves instead of starting startups, where they start a podcast like you have, or they start a newsletter and they build up their following and um, they become this thing that provides value to others that others enjoy, and can continue going from there instead of being like, I have to start a startup. I think it'll be more focused on like, I have to build up myself like a startup.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So actually like the way you put that, right? Because uh, the path of Web3 isn't really clear because me asking you about the journey and everything, I think it was actually me asking like an advice because currently I just turned 20 as well and I'm super confused. I don't really know what to do. My parents, asking me to go back to college, but I really don't want to because it's too much of debt and everything. But here I am. I'm a community manager working for Huxley Saga feature and a few other projects as well. So, and now I see this as a form of leverage because when I see you on Twitter, right, you've built around 14,000 people following. Instead, I would actually say 14,000 people are the community members because there definitely is a difference between an audience and a community. So you're building that community. And what inspired me to go read your thread and create a video on that was the kind of value that you are adding. And that's so native in Web3 that you'd instantly want to go and create something out of it. So touching base on the point that you actually mentioned. So would you actually expand on what you were saying about individuals using Web3, the technology and the community and the ethos as a form of leverage, creating their own things instead of
Yeah.
instead of actually sticking to something like a job or something, but for a long period of time, which kind of becomes their identity. But here they're exploring various stuff, and what are your thoughts on that? Would love to hear about that.
Yeah. Just on your last point on exploding, it's compounding. It takes time. Like, it's difficult. Um, I was publishing content for a while before I had one thread that blew up, and even now it still has taken me time. I feel like I'm just getting in a routine and about to begin growing or continue growing, I guess, again from this Reddit thread. But the monetization for creators in Web3 is like, it's not even comparable to that in Web 2 because the aspect of social and finance is much more intertwined. An example was yesterday with this Art Gobbler's White Mint, where everyone was complaining about these influencers got a free 20K, and some of them like came money, dumped it on people, whatever. Um, that is something that's unique to Web3. There aren't Web2 TikTok creators that are getting a free $20,000, for just being who they are and not having to do anything in return. So it's very interesting, and anybody who has a following and a legitimate following and legitimate influence in the space and provides value to the space, it's much easier to monetize it. It's much easier, and especially soon to be in the future, to do things like create private groups, private information streams to only present certain opportunities to people, almost like a premier loyalty program and such. So I'm very excited about where Web3 social is going to go. And I think that everyone's really focused on gaming, but to me, social is kind of like a sleeping giant.
Okay.
Because gaming is like, frankly, it's like the people that spend times playing games don't have on average the same level of like money or influence of the people who are like the most prominent people creating in something like Web3 or finance or different more like educational fields.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and it's more accessible to everyone. Like the total addressable market for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is much larger than even like Fortnite as an example. So I think the market is larger, and there are more like high value participants, at least today, that exist in those markets. Not that gaming doesn't have high value participants, there's a ton, but it's just like
Correct.
Mark Cuban isn't spending 12 hours a day live streaming. I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
that will take another 5, 10, etc. years before it really hits, but it's already there for something like social.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So you are actually talking about that amazing synergy of the creator economy and Web3,
Hmm.
right? So when these two come together, I think there's something beautiful that happens here. And here, I think the ownership part plays a role. So the content that I'm posting right now isn't really my content. It's of course I'm creating it, but then I'm posting it on YouTube. YouTube can take me off anytime, right? So could you talk about bringing ownership into the creator economy while you're already talking about Web3? So how do you think that's going to play out?
Yeah. As you just said with YouTube as an example, you upload a video to YouTube. YouTube now owns your video, not you. And to the average person, they may be like, whatever, it doesn't like, at a service level, like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Like, YouTube's pretty great. Everybody's on YouTube. Why does this mean something? Why should I care about it?
Yeah.
But if you think about what's possible, like, I think a tweet is an easier example. Like, let's say instead of me adding tweeting to Twitter and Twitter owning my data and them using it, monetizing it for them, I could generate millions of impressions. I don't earn any money on it, but anyways, you can now upload to a decentralized server and have apps as the interface that pulls data from that server. So you own the data, and apps pull in your data to present them to the people that use the application. And the difference is that if one of the apps can ban you, one of the apps can become less relevant. Whatever happens on the app interface level, it doesn't necessarily matter. At least it's not like terminal, where if you get banned on YouTube, like Steve will do it as somebody. I saw that he got banned on YouTube recently. It's like he's done. His video catalog is gone. His
Yeah. Yeah.
followers are gone. It's all gone. But with decentralized social, you can now own those connections. You own your data. You own your following. At least like the wallets that follow you, the wallets that tip you, etc. And anything that happens on the app interface level will be much less significant than the level of ownership you have and control underneath.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. So I think with even Farcaster coming in, and I think A16Z is really bullish on Farcaster because they've already invested in Anderson, Mark Anderson. I think his thoughts are also great on the ownership part. So how do you think this is going to be? Because creating a wallet currently, of course, it's a better version, is better stage. We basically text DWR on Twitter to get access, and then we're on it. So,
Yeah.
but then what's the inherent value there? Like, why would people jump onto Farcaster? Like, Twitter's pretty great. I mean, I could say that, right? Twitter's pretty great, and also, Ligma Johnson and everything that recently happened, the memes on Twitter and everything. I feel
Yeah.
it's pretty great, but um, of course, having that Web3 native mindset, why would any other common person just jump onto Farcaster? What value do they see in that?
Yeah, I actually I really love what Dan is building and Farcaster. I'm like totally in support of any Web3 social initiative. But the truth is, it's not really that much yet. Um,
Okay.
all these social platforms have network effects. Like if I go on Twitter, I can reach 1 million people. If I go on Farcaster, maybe I could only reach 1,000, right?
Correct.
So it's tough. It's like unless you're just cross posting over as a benefit to like seed yourself on an early platform that could grow exponentially and be an early user. That seems to be like the core benefit that I see is like being early to something that will grow and to grow with it.
Okay.
Um, but I'm really waiting for a Web3 social application that is unique to Web3 and that people enjoy for the application itself.
Okay.
Farcaster is really just like a decentralized skin of Twitter. Same thing with like DSO, which was formerly BitCloud. They're very similar to what already exists. I'm really waiting for an app that can go viral and people make money off it and begin falling in love with it. And
Okay.
some ideas for that are like, I think somebody could create like a meme generator where you create a meme and like it's instantly an NFT, and then you have this layer that people can compose new memes on top of yours, and like whatever they sell, um, you as the initial creator get a percentage of the royalties on top, or
Hmm.
percentage of like the sale price on top of that,
Okay.
to have that like downstream like cash flow into the OG creators. Like one of the problems on TikTok, as an example, is there's a story about a young creator who started this dance that everybody did, became super popular. I can't remember the exact thing, but like she gained a little bit of followers, but she didn't like blow up that much, and she created probably like tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for TikTok and all the people that did these dances and became
Okay.
popular on it and drove revenue to the site. If there's a
Hmm.
way that she could have some sort of downstream, you know, impact that's like direct to her, even if the initial creator doesn't even have to be cash flow, but even as a recognition standpoint, um,
Okay.
I think that that'll be really powerful, and it's something that Web3 can unlock. So the memes idea is one. There's definitely like others like TikTok videos, dances, etc. that people post and can, you know, blow up as trends is another. But that aspect of like patronage um, and also just that downstream effect of, you know, cash flow royalties going back to the first person is really interesting.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Correct, correct. Because the original creator has to get that credit because you're profiting out of it. The company is profiting out of it. So there must be some kind of incentive that the original creator must be getting. So yeah, I think that's something which is very interesting. And I think, do you think that can only happen with blockchain? Because when you have an NFT, when you have something non-fungible, that's immutable. It can only happen on blockchain, right? It needs a medium. And do you think this actually helps in doing that?
Um, I don't think that can only happen on blockchain. I think it's better on blockchain because then it's like that can transcend to new applications. Like if
Hmm.
TikTok did that as an example, I think it could exist within like the TikTok ecosystem and still work
Correct.
well. Where it's like the dances were tagged as this person was the initial creator, or the dances have like tags and this person was known as the, you know, first person to create that tag, something like that. But when it transports across applications, that's when decentralized data like Web3 becomes valuable because then it's like those tags could be on Instagram, or let's say it's
Okay.
on TikTok. You have the, I don't even know any TikTok dance names, but like you have whatever dance, you know, created
Yeah.
on TikTok, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, the boogie, or let's call it the boogie. So you have the boogie tag on TikTok, and then when somebody does the boogie on Instagram, you it recognizes the creator who initially, you know, created the dance, but initially became popular through
Correct.
TikTok. So that's an example. And as I'm thinking about that,
Wow.
I just think about how I'm a boomer that I don't know any TikTok dances, but that's okay.
Yeah. 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 So, now I think we actually come back to your thread, right? To the Twitter thread that you've written, and actually have it on my screen right now. And also, for a fun fact, I'm using the same screen that you are. I think I've seen it in one of your video. You're using a 27-inch Samsung dual monitor screen. So I have the similar one, but one is vertical. But yeah.
So funny story about that. I actually had to let those go because my girlfriend hated them so much. They're
Okay.
like, battle station is too much. You get, she's like, I'll do one big monitor, but this monstrosity that she called it is too much because we don't have a very big. We have like a 550 square foot place, and we both work from here, so it's not a ton of space. She's like, the battle station is too
Yeah.
much. Staying at the old apartment.
True. True. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then Legions love it for sure.
Yeah, it's nice. I kind of miss it. I have a 34-inch ultra wide now, which is nice. But anyways,
Oh wow. That I think that's even cooler.
yeah, I love it. Love it.
So yes. So here I think the first thing that you actually mentioned is I think personally I think what got a lot of people hooked is the Trojan horse thing that you were talking about because there were a lot of memes already, but then you explained that in detail. So why Trojan horse? So um, of course, like we've understood that it's a mechanism for normies, like we say, it's
Mhm.
mechanism for normies to own collectibles on the internet without even knowing that they have NFTs, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? Like, what are your points?
Yeah. On the Trojan horse, that actually wasn't initially my idea. That was like ABBB underscore NFT on Twitter. They said it was a Trojan horse. And I was like, that's really, really smart. I'm gonna use that, roll with it, and give him credits, give them credits too. Um, but yeah, Reddit did something really well, which is they abstracted all of the Web3 jargon outside of it. And something that I want more projects to do that have a Web2 audience is that you need to focus on the value propositions of Web3. The like, it's an NFT now is like negative. It used to be a benefit where everyone was hyping in like, oh my god, it's an NFT, like these things are going crazy. Now it's like, oh my god, you bought an NFT, like you're an idiot. Everyone has lost so much money. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I think that brands need to move away from that terminology. It's harmful. Unfortunately, that's what it's become. And Reddit did that. They said that the wallets are a vault. They said that the NFTs are digital collectibles, and a bunch of little things like that, really, really intelligently designed. And they
yeah,
gave it to people for free. It's like, um, yeah, I mean, it's like we've experienced sites, especially like addicting sites, or addicting things, frankly, are often given to people for free at first. Like
yeah,
casinos will give you a free spin, gambling sites, sports betting sites will give you a free play, drug dealers will give you a free hit. Like it's, I
yeah,
hate to
yeah.
say, it, but when you give something to somebody that they like, even if it's like a free slice of pizza at the place down the street, you have this level of loyalty to them. And especially
Correct.
when there's a financial value that's associated with it that you can sell it, it just becomes, 10x. So
Okay.
Reddit did those three things well, I think. To recap, they had the NFT avatars as like the Trojan horse to expand into this broader metaverse play, which they may or may not be doing, but it seems to me that they are. They also abstracted Web 2 or Web 3 jargon away and focused just on the value propositions, and then they got people hooked. They gave them something for free.
Wow, wow. Got it, got it. Now I think you're giving this analogy. Do you think it's a play of dopamine, right? Uh, do you think it's like a dopamine play wherein, um, of course, you're giving a tester pack,
Mhm.
all the examples like even all the examples that you're given, for example pornographic sites, right? They have free content and then people go purchase the content. Um, so do you think it's like a dopamine play, but of course through adding value because when they have that collectible on the while they're lurking on Reddit and just typing their thoughts, they see they have a particular collectible there, and it gives them status. Like for example, a Midas, which is the gold one. That's the best one. So that gives them status there. Like you have a mutant, and yeah, do you think that gives them some advantage while lurking on Reddit and everything? So
Yeah, absolutely. Reddit's an interesting place where they control the entire interface and user experience. And if they realize that this is a profitable thing that they want to do from a customer like retention, engagement, or even acquisition standpoint, they can go all in on this, and that's very unique. Like Bored Apes, as an example, they don't have their own. They don't have their own application where they control information flow. They don't own Twitter. They don't own Discord, where Reddit does. And I think there's if they want to target their 50 million daily active users and get them all on Reddit avatars, they can,
mhm.
and that value will flow back very strongly to the initial Gen 1 collections in the same way that any Gen 1 collectible demands a premium over Gen 2, unless
Correct.
all things the same. And this kind of also highlights the need for Web3 social in some ways, or the benefit from it, where Reddit owns the data, Reddit owns the full user experience. So now, like, users have to decide. As an example, me on Twitter, I have to decide, like, do I want to invest time like building up a following on Reddit, and like you know sharing threads there, building up my karma posts, etc., or should I just focus all on Twitter? Whereas in
Okay.
decentralized social, I can upload that to one server and have it be pulled into Twitter, Reddit, Substack, all at one point, and I retain all those followers and such. And
Okay.
still, like using the Bored Ape example, Yuga Labs could create their own applications where you need to be a Bored Ape holder to communicate, and customize the way that information flows through it, instead of having to live within the confines of Discord and Twitter.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
So Reddit has
Understood.
a they have a massive advantage. It's kind of like Web 2.5. I see it where
Yeah.
it's extremely beneficial to them. Um, Not really as beneficial to like users, but to me, it's like they're as from a business standpoint. If they do this right, I think it could be very, very lucrative for them.
Correct. Correct. Of course, because they have the resources, they have the brain power, and I think it's all about the execution, like you said, right? So I think that's something like which is very important. But can you talk about the community aspect? Because now here, it was a different perspective for me when I was actually looking at Twitter. Now all I see is a lot of bots pinging me and tagging me for a lot of airdrops, right?
Yeah.
But then now after you said that, saying okay, um, now Reddit is becoming more a little bit more NFT friendly. Initially they weren't. Initially there were a lot of right click savers, but now
Yeah.
you know the vibe is more NFT friendly,
Mhm.
right? So how do you think the community aspect is going to play out on Reddit, because they already have a large community and sub communities, right? So it just goes on, and I think they're one of the OG companies. They've been here since a long time. So how do you think the community aspect's going to play out? And is community the new uh, the word, right? The fad,
Mhm.
the community. So
Yeah.
because a lot of people on Twitter, I mean, even myself, because I'm a community manager as well, I'm kind of tired of using the word community because after a point it feels like it's not that organic. It's manufactured, but then the
Mhm.
essence is actually the people in it.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the people? Um, that real people coming together, sharing their thoughts, creating value, adding value, and sharing the thoughts. So what are your points on that? So what do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, Reddit. One thing that I don't think a lot of people know in the NFT space is like crypto, like the hive mind of crypto information intelligence was on Reddit back in 2016, 17, before that major bubble hit, and now it's mostly on Twitter. At least to my knowledge, it's where I spend most of my time. I wonder if there's potential that it flips back for NFTs next cycle, where everybody on NFT Twitter, it's like very deep into things. They have their Bored Ape and they have their Moonbird and whatever else.
Yeah,
Um, it's like filled with scams and it's filled with like a bunch of like PvP, and drama and stuff like
yeah,
that. And frankly, to me at least, I think that NFT Twitter has become a little bit less fun recently, and I've
yeah,
tried to just like focus back to post like high quality educational content that benefits people, not
yeah.
engage with harm, not cause drama, not whatever. So I think Reddit has a chance where you have this like organic discovery and onboarding into Web3 that'll have really powerful communities because they're not hanging on to the baggage of last cycle.
Correct, correct, correct. Oh, perfect line, right? They're not hanging on to the baggage of the last cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a cool line, and also explains a lot about what's coming and what has already happened. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a cool line. So yeah, and coming to that part where you're actually talking about how to capitalize, because now we know that there's Reddit and there are a lot of people where we can converse with, and active community, but how do we actually capitalize on this opportunity? And you said the real alpha is in avatar trading, Discord, and subreddit, because you can see what the OGs are vibing with, right?
Yeah.
So and it's okay if you've missed out, and there are so many other projects. We have to constantly look at what the other brands are doing. So yeah, I think that's a cool point that you shared, but really want to
Mhm.
go deep into that one. So how do we capitalize on it?
On Reddit avatars now.
Not just right avatars, like things like this, more opportunities that come. So how do we capitalize? How do we know that okay, these are the right moves that we have to play? So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, the things that I'm looking for now is if I can try to create a framework, and I should have one that's written down. But basically, I like things where the total addressable market is like far
Hmm.
greater than the supply permits, and that has a spark that can lead to that total addressable market um, wanting to want the product. So in simple terms, I'm looking for something that has a lot of demand potential and constrained supply. And Reddit
Okay.
avatars were one of those, and I'm kind of kicking myself that I actually wasn't very early to investing in them. I was kind of caught up in the like alpha group, pump and dump cycle of things of like trying to scalp those, 50%
Yeah.
gains, whatever. Um, but one thing I think I can do somewhat well, and my investment focus is going to be on moving forward, is trying to find these like 10 to 100x, plus plays really early. And I think that's the way, because the risk reward on them is so much greater than anything else. So basically, to use Reddit as an example, going back to the framework, the total addressable market for Reddit is 400 million, or 300, 400 million monthly active Reddit users.
Yes.
That's massive. That's much bigger than anything we've ever seen in the NFT space. The supply of the Gen 1 collectibles is like 36,000. Um, but they didn't have a spark. They didn't have anything that would make that market want them yet. And the spark
Hmm.
was giving it to people for free. And that
Okay.
became like a meme basically that infected the minds of, the most hardcore crypto redditors, that made them
Makes
all want to
sense.
get things. And then it spread. It
Mhm.
spread beyond that. It spread to people that aren't even on Reddit. So I'm still bullish on Reddit Gen 1 avatars. I'm looking for, if there's a period where the hype dies down, to continue buying more of these, continue to become more integrated with Reddit to see how much people care about them.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's what I'm looking for, and I think a lot of like social and gaming applications will have that type of mechanic, and I plan to, make small bets in a bunch of these that I'm okay if they go to zero, because I only need one to hit to go really big. Like if you were early on Reddit avatars, you put $1,000 in, you could have realistically, like, you could have netted 50, 100K on that
Yep.
over only $1,000 of risk, which isn't crazy. You could have put $10 in or $100 in and bought one and done really well. So I really like those type of bets.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Makes sense. So I think, of course, this is all not investment advice. This is just two people discussing professionally and what we think about the space. Yeah. And yeah, I really like that because um, it's like, like slower moves, but then the right kind of moves, but playing a long-term game.
Yeah,
So
ab-
I think that's an amazing way to see this, because if you're in it for a long term, I think you got to find those right places, right communities where we inherently see value in, because for example, NFT flippers, if you're just flipping NFTs, um, person A, person B, C, it just keeps going on, but then the value of the NFT is the intrinsic value is actually zero, right?
mhm.
So instead, I think, like you said, understanding what it is, understanding the provenance behind the project or whatever what's happening. So I think that's a great play. One thing I was really confused about was here when you were mentioning 3 million wallets, as they mentioned, but then they aren't. So 3 million wallets actually misleading. So any article that I see, instantly I see 3 million, but then this was something I really wanted to talk to you about. So what makes you think they aren't 3 million?
So 3 million wallets is true. 3 million active wallets is false, at least in
Okay.
the data that I've seen. 3 million wallets is all the people that have like a vault created on Reddit. One thing that people should have thought about is like there's only 86,000 of these avatars. So it's like, how are there 3 million wallets when there's only 86,000 avatars? It's like even if
Hmm.
there's 100% distribution, it'd still be 86,000 wallets. So Reddit has had millions of these wallets back from introducing tokenized communities. So a bunch
Okay.
of these people created them, and yeah, so it's not like 3 million wallets were created for this. It's there's about 3,000 people, probably more now, that actively traded the avatars, and that's who I'm considering an active user. So if you think about that, 3,000 people that have actively traded one of these, it's like incredibly small. Assuming that at some point, a large percentage of these people will get one or many on secondary markets. 3,000 out of Reddit's 300 400 million monthly active users has one, like is trading them. So that's like really small. So anyways, yeah, 3 million is misleading for the NFT avatars, but it's probably like 4 or 5 thousand people now, I would guess, who are actively like trading and participating in the markets, as they will be when the markets are more mature.
Okay, okay. So, even more than the 3 million or the 3K number, what
Mhm.
my takeaway from what you said is the mindset, right? Um, Look at the numbers, right? Basically, look at the numbers, what's going on in the market. So, if just 86,000, so um, there's no way there can be. So, understanding what's behind it, I think that really helps in making some active decisions, because also you're talking a lot about TAM, right? A total addressable market. Now, this makes like total sense. looking really at the numbers, looking at the charts, and understanding the data and analyzing it. And it doesn't have to be like super analytical, but then just using common sense, I think, right? Using common sense, understanding it, because if I go with the hype, let's say 3 million, and you're making wrong bets. So that might not be the good mindset for crypto, especially in the bear market as well.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you think?
True. Yeah, it's one thing that's tough in the NFT and crypto space is that even the most exciting projects are often like really bad investments. Not really bad investments, but like I shouldn't say that. They're not bad investments, but they're not the investments that they're made out to be. So
Mhm.
an example is like when um, like Art Gobblers, I think is a really good example yesterday. I was very excited about the Art Gobblers project, and I was hoping, and then as the mint came, closer and closer, and literally everybody I knew was talking about it, I'm like, I don't think it's gonna make sense to get one because like, all the value is gonna be realized by the time these hit the secondary market. There's like no customer discovery phase left. It's like who is the new buyer into Art Gobblers that doesn't already know about it, right? And
Okay.
then who is the seller? Like anybody that got the whitelist for free that has a 10, 15 ETH profit. So anyways, that's an example of like a project that I really liked that I didn't touch and probably won't touch unless it like really dips on the reveal, just because there needs to be value left to find. And
Okay.
oftentimes
Okay.
on NFT Twitter especially, it's like you hear about good projects, but oftentimes you hear about them at the wrong time. It's like they just pumped 300% and everybody needs to get in because it's going to the moon. It's like, no, that's when you stop. That's when you sit on the sidelines. You wait for it to be quiet. You wait like, a silent assassin for when it hits, when FUD comes, and then you go out and you make your play. So yeah,
Got
I
it.
think that's really, really important. That's part of the reason why I didn't go like all in on Reddit avatars at the time. It's because literally everybody was talking about it. And if there actually were 3 million, like when there actually are 3 million people trading Reddit avatars, I'll be looking to exit because that's when it reaches maturity. That's when I want to sell. And I just think that it's important to identify early how early your insight is relative to the average person. Like hearing about art gobblers and thinking it's a good project on mint day is not early. Being early was 6 months ago when they were giving out whitelist spots for art competitions and realizing it
Yep.
was back with Paradigm and with Justin Rowland who's behind Rick and Morty, etc. That was early. So yeah, good project doesn't always mean good investment, especially in the NFT space when things are so volatile.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at things here, right? Yeah, yeah. I think personally, I think this is something that I needed, and the kind of mindset shift that I needed, because currently I really want to focus on having more cash, because I know like things are very unstable and it's very uncertain. So I know, of course, a cash is trash, like they say, but right now, looking at the market conditions and everything, I think there has to be some form of liquidity you're having, right? In the worst case scenario as well. So got it, got it, got it. So as we're talking about the bear market, right? Like, what are your thoughts on a lot of people exiting the space? Because we've seen a lot of people exiting the space, and the funnel has become really small, and we've filtered out a lot of people, and um, of course, I think I don't really know the numbers that I see, the 90% decline and everything. But
Yeah.
looking at the condition right now, most people are here whitelist hunting, things like that. What's going to happen to that? Initially, when we started off with the Web3 space, it was fun, right? I mean, you're in Clubhouse discussing, hey, why should I buy these monkeys? You weren't talking a lot about the price, but now don't you think a lot of discussions right now are about floor price? Um, so what's going to happen in that case?
Yeah, I mean they are. I think it's kind of natural no matter what the stage in the market is. Now it's more of an emphasis a little bit because I think it's like negative and negative attention usually hooks a little bit better than positive
Yeah.
about floor price. It just isn't that much like happening to be excited about. I would say that if you're still here, um, you should definitely look at sticking around a little bit longer because it's like, BTC and ETH, the crypto market peaked a year ago. Like
Yeah.
it I'm still sitting most like about 50% in cash for my crypto portfolio, but I'm looking to like deploy soon. I'm waiting for more FUD. I'm waiting for, more wicks down to begin like pretty heavily deploying into ETH and like sitting on that waiting for good NFT projects. Um, but yeah, I think if you made it this far, it makes sense to hold on a little bit longer. And if you're new, if you're looking at entering the space, I would definitely not begin and be like, let me empty my bag on stuff right now.
Okay.
Say,
Okay.
enter with the aim of learning and use capital that you view as like a learning expense, like a tuition to this space. Because
Wow.
frankly, if you're trying to trade NFTs now, you're competing against assassins that will, their only goal is to extract liquidity from the market. And they're very good at it. And they're very good at doing it from people who are not as skilled as them. So it's very tough. It's very tough to like make money in NFTs right now. So I'd be very cautious telling people to be like, come on in and spend money. I'd be more like, buy a Reddit avatar for $37 and like join the community, join a subreddit, see what it's like. Buy a Friday Beers avatar that I'm a fan of because I think they're have a good project despite a shitty mint. Like buy one for $50 and join their community, learn about Web3, see it as an expense, not as an investment. And then after 6 months of doing that and learning, the market should turn around and begin like putting in some money that you feel comfortable with.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think that's something that's really great for someone who's entering the market now.
Mhm.
Looking at the spending capacity as a tuition to understand what the market is. I think that's something people are gonna love, and all the listeners are definitely gonna love.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. I think we've already covered about understanding the Reddits and understanding the avatars and why it's Reddit is doing it so subtly, and good points that we covered. But now I want to digress a little bit, and I want to talk about the royalty structure because we're talking about projects already. So I think there was also this phase of lot of free mints happening, but now so this is what I want to ask, right? So what's going to happen to these projects? um I think Frank Degards and Magic Eden, when they were doing Twitter Spaces, they already mentioned that if your sole purpose and if your entire monetization mechanism is of royalties, the project isn't really that great. And that was something that not a lot of people spoke about, and I was shocked when he said that, because there are a lot of other people as well spreading FUD in the spaces. But I think that was a valid point, because
Me.
if your sole purpose is about royalties, that means you want people not to hold your NFT. You want people to sell it. But then, should that be the intention of a project founder? So it was something that was really interesting. So what do you think?
Yeah. My take on royalties is they're just not enforceable. It's like it's a race to zero, and we're kind of seeing that. Like nobody voluntarily pays a tax that they don't want to pay, and people very actively evade taxes. So it's like
Correct.
kind of like a war on anything that is inevitably going to happen. So I'm in the camp of like, if people want to pay royalties, that's amazing. I think that's good for collections. There are some collections that I would voluntarily pay royalties for. Most collections that I trade, I wouldn't, to be
Okay.
completely honest. But um, and then the question is like, are NFTs like an expense? Like, are customers buying a product, or are they an investment? And if they're an expense, then maybe royalties on transfer are part of the expense. And if these brands create their own marketplaces and they can enable royalties and such, then I think that's fine. Like if somebody
Okay.
that's cool. But if they're an investment, then to me it's like people are already giving you money from primary sales to hopefully like start your business, and you want those people to be your supporters. So why should you capitalize more on their churn? Um,
Okay.
Especially when people are basically like market making for you for free and taking out volatility out of the market that would otherwise exist by like
Hmm.
buying and selling stuff. So I'm in favor of collections that like raise money to hopefully, you know, create an asset that's more valuable for the user that shouldn't decline in value like a product. I'm less in favor of them as having royalties. I view those more as like a crypto coin. Like, could you
Okay.
imagine if ETH had a 5% royalty every time you did it. Like that would suck, right?
Yeah, on top of the gas fee.
Yeah, exactly. On top of the gas fee.
Got it, got it, got it. So I think that that's some really interesting insights. So now talking about information, because you're adding a lot of value through your Substack and the threads, right? But then also coming back to the previous point when you mentioned a lot of the NFT community initially, the crypto community was initially on Reddit, um, right? Talking about the white paper, who Satoshi was. So that was the conversation that was happening, and so right now I think information is a little distilled and a little shallow, because at the time I get the information, it has already gone through a lot of layers, and
Mm,
also the assassins, like you mentioned, these assassins, they know when to attack, they know when to extract the maximum value out of, uh,
yeah.
the project. So, how do we be on top of information? Like, okay,
Mm.
so how do I get into that degen mindset? Of okay, I want to learn this, I want to do
Yeah.
that. So how do I, I want to learn more. So how does that happen? So where what's the source? What
So
door do I knock?
telling me where is the sweet stream of alpha coming from and how can I get there first? I think NFT investing is a game of information asymmetry. Like, there's just to be completely honest, like anybody who got our gobblers whitelist, anybody who was in Digi Daigaku early, they had better information than other people. If you know that our gobblers is excuse me, if you know it's a really promising project, has this amazing team, and you know how they're giving out whitelist, you can game that and get it, and that would have earned you $20,000. If you knew Digi Daigaku had a company behind it called Limit Break, which had raised $200 million and met with probably dozens or hundreds of VCs in that process, and you had that inside scoop, you could have made 20K on Digi Daigaku too. So the game is information asymmetry, and the way that you get access to information before others is by basically having better friends. And
Oh
so,
wow.
like, having better information sources. So I think being in the
Makes
right
sense.
groups and having the right friends is the best way to do it. And to do that, the best way to do it is by building a brand, audience, creating value for yourself. I genuinely love writing and researching projects, and I'm
Hmm.
striving to do this full time. Like working on some contracts and stuff to make this a reality, which I'm really excited about, working for some
Wow.
projects. Anyways, I think um, it's one of the best ways to do it. Like, people were dunking on the influencers for selling their art gobblers yesterday, but at the end of the day, like, they did something that the space respected and valued, and people followed them and supported them because of it, and they were rewarded. It's kind of this like full circle loop that we talked about on, like, how Web3 social opportunities are rewarded like nowhere else. So I think um, just providing value to the community in some way where people will follow you, you'll build relationships with other intelligent people that you know have access to that information and such is the way to do it.
Got it, got it. So in Web3, it's a lot about who you know, right?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the best traders have no idea what they're doing, but they're friends with people that are know what they're doing, and they benefit because of this. I remember, hearing this whale talk about this one time where he was like, he helped, I think it was his son and like four of his buddies earn like 100K in a few months through NFT trading earlier this year, just by feeding along the information that he had. And I'm like, that's it. That's partially the name of the game, whether you like it or not, whether the SEC likes it or not. That's kind of how it is today.
Got it, got it, got it. Yeah, I think that actually makes total sense, right? Because in this hyper-connected world, you have to know whom you're trying to connect with. So if I have to be like super honest, this is also this conversation that we're having right now is also something like that, because I just can't really hit up and say, "Hey, Liam, let's hop on a Zoom." That's really not that, because I tried that at the initial days, and I was scene zoned and people really never gave a shit. But then,
Mm.
I kind of understand it right now, that if you have something, if you're doing something genuinely, I think it's a little more easier to find the right kind of people, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think you have to do something that you genuinely enjoy. I genuinely love writing. I don't, at least not today, love making TikTok videos. I don't love making YouTube videos. I do like speaking. I may actually start a podcast. We'll see. But I'll have to work on my speaking a little bit maybe, but I'm just doing what I like. And I had the thought of like, I need to create to get access to better trading information. That's why I want to do it. And it didn't work out as well for me until I sat back and was like, I actually really enjoy this process, and I enjoy this process more than like any job I could have.
Okay.
So I want to do this for that reason. Um, and it's I think it's working out for me. But anyways, I would say to somebody who is exploring like how do I become a content creator, how do I get my foot in the door into these like exclusive groups and so on and so forth, the easiest way is by piggybacking off the back off other creators. So creating
Okay.
like summary videos as you did to me. Like I honestly just have so much respect that you took the time to make a video about me that I wanted to come on your podcast and support you. And you can do that with creators that are so much bigger than than me too.
Wow. 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 Understood. Understood. Yeah, I think that's a lot of I'm definitely gonna after posting this, I'm gonna listen to the whole podcast again because there's so much information here, and I want to listen to it and everything. So got it. So right now, as a young folk, right, I'm focused on a community building and helping out other projects and everything, and of course do want to create more content. um, but somewhere there is this hindrance where I think, okay, if I'm just stuck here, I have I'm just trying to build a nice setup and everything. So if I'm doing this, will I be missing out on the IRL opportunities when I'm not networking and going to those crypto events or things like that? So
Yeah.
how would that happen? Because even like in Nawal's podcast, he says networking events aren't that great. He says, because there are a lot of job seekers who come there, and
Yeah.
if you're building something of true value, people flock to you.
Exactly.
So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, networking to network is not networking. Um,
Oh wow.
building relationships is networking. And like if you hit me up and were like, hey, I'd love to add you to my LinkedIn professional network, I'd be like, this guy sucks. But like you hit me up, made a video about me, and I was like genuinely honored and wanted to come on your podcast and have a great chat with you, learn a little bit more about you and such, as we have. And so I think that's really the way to go about it. If you can just find a way to engage with people and interact with them in an authentic way, and ideally in a way that does something for them, they will be very likely to support you. The networking events, the crypto conferences themselves, all of that, it's a bunch of BS. Like I hate that stuff. Um, I went to a fancy, you may know because you're Canadian. I went to the Ivy Business School in at Western, which is one of the
Mm-hmm.
top undergraduate business schools in Canada. And
Yeah.
like I left the school after being like wrapped up in a suit and surrounded by people who, were going into investment banking and consulting. And I'm like, man, I'm so happy I'm not doing that. Like I can't stand these like cocktail hour networkings, like tell me about yourself and where you work and that. Anyway, so I think that there are opportunities to create real genuine connections, and Web3 has kind of like stripped away a lot of the BS that typical like business operating has, where people are just genuine and authentic for better or for worse. And I really enjoy that. So I think it's just important to remember who you are, and try to genuinely connect with people and help them, and they should be pretty receptive.
Got it. Yeah, that's amazing. I think a lot of information here, and yeah, I think so many pointers here, which I am so I'm really so excited about this podcast, honestly, because I actually got a lot of my doubts cleared as well, looking at the tweet and everything, and a lot of points that we covered about coming from the entire ethos, the community, Reddit, and how the creator economy will merge with
Mm.
Web3 and everything. So
Sweet.
we're at the end of our podcast, and keeping the time constraint in mind. Also, just want there are two things that we want to ask: is what's your mutant story, and
Yeah.
what's your advice for young folks who are in Web3? Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy you asked that. I'll give the full mutant story. I said how I got back into NFTs in August of last year, 2021. The first NFT that I bought outside of NBA Top Shot was a DGen Ape Academy on Solana. And I bought it off a tip from a friend. I literally didn't know what I was doing. And he's like, yo, I think this thing is going to do well. Like, you should buy one. I looked into it. I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. and it was $1,100 US. And at the time, like I had just graduated 2 months ago. I had just started getting paid like a big boy salary at my full-time job. And I didn't have a lot of money, but like I had enough where if I lost it, I'd be okay. And I was like, you know what? Like, fuck it. I'm just gonna put it in. Um, like 4 weeks later, I sold it for $18,000 or $17,000, and I was like, you know what? I actually kind of like this NFT thing. Let me see. I started reading into things. Obviously, came across like Bored Apes and realized that mutants had come out, and mutants had dipped, and it was in front of like NFT NYC, and they sold out at 3 ETH, went up to like sixth floor, and we're back down to like four. And I was like, you know what? This is like the fastest emerging, most promising project in the biggest space. Excuse me, in this NFT space that's going nuts. I'm gonna buy one. 17 grand. I really like want to be a dive into NFTs. And that was like a lot of money for me. That was like I think half my savings that I had at that point, which I don't recommend in hindsight. Like it worked out, but it could have gone really bad. But it
Yep.
was all earnings. It was kind of like house money. I was like, whatever. And then I held it. I sold my Ape airdrop around like $14 average. I sold my other deed that I got from it. I honestly was like seriously debating selling my mutant at the top before the other side mints. I wrote a thread
Mm-hmm.
like a week later on how I thought NFTs were like gonna crash really hard, and I held my mutant because I'm like, you know what, I think this one will do okay, and it went down like 80%. I'm like, whatever, I still have it. I exited like over $40,000 on it, so it paid back the cost. But anyways, that's my mutant story. So I'm still hanging on to it. We'll see. I haven't been very happy, to be frank, with how like ApeCoin staking and communications have been from Yuga. So um, we'll see if I hang on to it long term. But anyways, advice to people who are joining now, I would say to, um, I should have a better answer for this, but I think find something that you actually like that costs like $100 to $200, whatever you would view as
Okay.
like what you're comfortable spending in a weekend, and don't go above that amount, and put it into it. Join the community, become active in the community, attend the AMAs, attend their fun nights, chat in Discord and Twitter. Become a part of it and experience it. See if you actually like being part of an NFT community, or if it's not for you, and then explore other things you may or may want to join,
Correct.
and see where it takes you. But yeah, definitely don't empty your saving account to go degen into a bunch of like art gobblers right now.
Correct. 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 Yeah, and also use common sense. Like we discussed previously. I use common sense. Look at the numbers. Look at the data. Understand what the value is, and yeah. And if you're smart enough to flip and make money, I think you should do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, there's maybe like if you can come in the space now as a newbie and flip and make money, you are going to make so much money next cycle because you're like a legend at it out of the gate. But I would say
Correct.
that for a very, very high majority of people, that won't be the case. Like I would consider myself a decent trader, but even I'm like, stepping back on putting money into the market now for like trades, because it's just like it's so difficult.
Correct. Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Liam. Thank you for all the threads that you write, and keep writing. And I think I'll go subscribe to your Substack as well, because I want to be at the top of the information cycle, right? Like we discussed. So I want to do that. And yeah, Liam, it was great. It was great. And we'll see you again on Twitter. Let's do some spaces. And anytime you want to do podcasts, do hit me up. And yeah, it was great. It was an amazing
Mm,
podcast and a lot of information here.
My pleasure. Pleasure. Well, I
Yeah,
hope you have a
yeah,
great rest of the day. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Bye, Liam. Bye.
Bye bye.